So recently, I moved to Seattle, and one of the reasons that is not like a good reason, but one of the reasons I was so excited was because for the first time, I was going to be living really close to a melee major. Don't park on the grass, happening literally like a 8-minute walk away from my home. And I was really excited to attend it. I was thinking about it since I first packed my car and started driving to Seattle, and for bad reasons, entirely the result of my own failures, I didn't purchase a ticket for it in time, which is my fault. So like, it's fine with me, mostly. Like, I don't know, I haven't been as invested in Melee as I used to be this last year, or for these like last 2 recent years. And I wouldn't want to take a seat away from someone who like was more passionate than me. Because I've been there, I've been that passionate person. Like literally once, I canceled date plans because Leffen was making a run at LACS. I used to find so much inspiration in like the story of the players. I would just like quote random things Mango said. I loved the game, and I loved watching it. I became this invested in the game during quarantine. My favorite players were, and always will be, Mango, Magi, Leffen, Hungrybox, and also None, because I think we're cousins, so I have to be. I loved everyone, basically, but it was Summit 11 that turned this rediscovered interest into a passion. The night that Mango won, I called my partner at the time to cry about how monumental it was. I was like, you don't understand the history of Mango, what it means for him to still be winning majors in 2021, I think. And I told them all about the 5 gods and just spoke nonsense for hours. And I call this a rekindled love because I started playing Melee back in 2nd grade, which for me was 2008. It was at my friend Will's house. I really wanted to play Brawl because it had Pokemon Trainer, but he only had Melee, and he played Fox and Falco, and he knew how to Wave Dash. And I played Link and Pikachu, and I didn't know that the A button was a move. I didn't know it was an option. I thought Link only had bombs and arrows, and it's kind of messed up that he never taught me how to Wave Dash. But that's neither here nor there. That's beef from over 15 years ago. When me and Will were in 2nd grade, a local opened up at our library, and we started going. And it was really scary for me. I was a kind of introverted child, but Will convinced me to go by telling me that they gave out a $10 GameStop gift card to the winner, and a jar of licorice to the person who got 2nd place. Imagine, that was, at that time, that was the biggest payout of probably any local. And Will said that he would get 1st, and then he'd let me get 2nd, and then we could share the prizes and buy like the new Pokemon Mystery Dungeon game and eat licorice while doing it. But I, ambitious child that I was, felt in my heart that I could get 1st place too. So we went, and we were definitely the youngest people by far, and everyone there, it was like in this, they turned the lights off and like covered the blinds. Everyone there was really intense, tall and bearded, and I remember this one guy groaning to the TOs, "You're gonna make me play a kid? Come on, dude, just count it as a win for me." And they like laughed about it, but we were here to prove that guy wrong. The tag I chose to do this was King, because there was a Beyblade character named King. But the dude making our name tag scoffed when I was like, "My name's King," and he wrote down Prince, which was weird of him to do, but I thought it was a cute name, so like, I didn't mind, and I would later name our family cat Prince, so shout out to that guy. So it's the 1st round of my 1st tournament, and I'm out round 1 because I suck at the game, but my friend Will made it to 3rd place, and all the dudes there started like applauding him and like treating him like he was like the young god. It was cool as fuck. People started talking to us, and like, even though we didn't really have any friends at school, it felt like we found a community with these scary, cool dudes. And the guy started teaching me how to like actually play Link and to do more than just press up B, but he didn't teach me enough, and we'll get to that. So it was all going well, until one week when Will wasn't able to make it because he had like a math tutor. I don't know what he was trying to be tutored in 3rd grade, but clearly he did better in school than me. I got a drama major. He's a nuclear physicist now, so I shout to Melee. So I decided to go to the local on my own, where I was playing this Falco, and it finally felt like I knew how to beat someone. But every time I took a stock, he would start loudly complaining, and then his friends around him, some of which I had like come to know, started to come up behind us and like make fun of the way that I, an 8-year-old, was playing. And I was feeling more and more scared as like the set went on, and kind of angry because like then he'd take a stock and then like his friends would cheer and I'd be like, I'll show him. But like I still kind of sucked at the game, so like every stock I did take was mostly just luck. Despite it all though, I did end up winning my first ever set against a real person in tournament, and I jumped up cheering, thinking I was going to be praised by these people like Will was. But instead, the guy I was fighting throws his controller against the wall and screams in my face, "All you do is fucking up B." The dude's friends then pulled him aside and said like, "It's cool, dude, that kid sucks, let's go outside and smoke for a sec." And so I was terrified, rightly so, I think. I was so scared of the controller throw, and I felt so abandoned by like my new friend. I know they weren't my friends, but I was kind of immediately attached to them. I was 8. What can you do? And I felt abandoned, so I went to the bathroom library to cry, and then I went back in. I lost against my next opponent, and the dude who I beat, like, he like found our match and like was heckling me while I was fighting and losing to this guy. I don't think I took a single stock from him. And after I lost, the guy who I beat high-fived the guy who beat me. Weird behavior. My parents wouldn't be there to pick me up for another couple hours, so I decided to walk home. And then after that, every time Will asked me if I wanted to play Melee, I said that I didn't like Melee anymore, and every time he asked me if I even wanted to go to the library, I said that I never wanted to go back to the library. And so Melee like drifted out of my life. But I still loved it. It was like a passion that it hurt to have, if that makes any sense. And when I rekindled this love during quarantine, once things started opening up again, I would always consider going to a local or like even a major. Genesis is a really close major to where I lived at the time. But I would always see these stories online about like the behavior of Smash players, and I just figured that not much had changed since my last local, and I didn't have anyone to go with, so I kind of just never went. I hadn't been to a Melee tournament since that day in 2009, until today, 15 years later, where I called out of work to walk over to Don't Park on the Grass, knowing that I did not have a badge for it. And I can't wait to tell you how incredible it was. So just to reestablish, I did not have a pass, and walking in, I figured I'd get turned away immediately. That was okay with me. I just wanted to say to myself that I actually went there instead of staying home. I felt this like, not like FOMO, but like this like both ache to go and ache that pushed me away. Feeling like this isn't a community that's made for me. I will always just be someone who observes it from not even Twitch chat, like the YouTube recaps or Slime's stream. I stood outside the doors of the venue for like a good few minutes, watching people walk in and out. Kind of like that scene in Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Explorers of Sky, shout out, until I finally convinced myself to go in. And what I didn't expect was that there were so many areas where a badge wasn't required. Like, I definitely did spend most of the night watching through like little windows, like a sad Victorian child, the matches that I want to watch. But that was all to be expected. What wasn't expected was the artist alley, where not only was there incredible art, but like incredibly like welcoming people. A type of person who I never saw at that 2008 library local. Specifically, I want to give a shout out to this wonderful person I met named Henny at the Eggdog booth. In the last 2 years, I transferred to a university from community college. I just graduated, but during that time I was busy almost 24/7. And as some of my favorite players stopped playing as much after the Smash World Tour stuff, I kind of like fell off of the scene. Like, I would like check in on the occasional major, but it was mostly just to see who was in top 8 and if Mango was making a run or not. So I've been pretty out of the loop on new developments, but one thing I did know was Eggdog, because I freaking love those little egg dudes, and I learned about them when they sponsored Cody Abidabu when he didn't have a sponsor, and I thought that was the coolest thing in the entire world. And then when I saw the Eggdog booth, I was like, no way, they're real and in person? And I was kind of like starstruck. I was like, this can't be real. This is like the thing I see on Twitter and like the ads. Oh, I was so excited. And the kind person running the booth, Henny, was the first person I talked to in this like big scary building where everyone was making the gamer face. And let me tell you, as someone who was high-key looking for any excuse to leave at that time, because I was a little overwhelmed, all it takes is one kind person to make you want to stay. And she gave me this sticker, and let me grab, where's my, oh, my phone's over there. Let me grab it. I got it. She gave me this sticker, and it just really made my entire day. Another fun aspect of this that they don't talk about in the tweets was I kept walking past top players, and it was initially crazy to me that they were real people and not just little icons who lived in my phone. But the other thing that was so shocking was how short literally every single top player was. Like, I'm not even that tall. I'm only like 6'2", but it was still so shocking. Like I saw Junebug and I heard his voice, which I've heard on comms countless times and in video essays, but I didn't believe it was him because I remembered someone describing him as quite tall. So I was being like kind of weird, just staring at this poor little guy trying to assess if he was really Junebug or if I was crazy. J-Mook too. And then like Amsa was standing next to me while I was sitting and we were like the same. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna stop. This is not and should not be like a height call out. I feel kind of mean now. I'm probably gonna cut this. I don't know who watches these videos. It was just a shock to me because I always imagine people who I see online, I imagine they're like my height or taller. So it was just surprising, is all I'm saying. Except Leffen, who was the person I was rooting for there. And I saw him from across the way. He's pretty tall. That wasn't a shock, but maybe that's why he's focusing on other games, since it seems the current meta is short kings. So after a lot of wandering, I eventually found my way into the controller modder exhibit room, where these two wonderful dudes told me that I could stay since it's not a badge area. And I had like 1,000,001 annoying questions for them about Melee, the venue, and controllers, and they answered like all of them. Like, they're so cool. And then one of the dudes said I could pull up a chair and watch the stream if I wanted that they had playing in that room. And I don't know, like, for some reason, like, I felt a little anxious just sitting by myself in a room without really, like, knowing anybody, while everyone else had, like, their booths. How do you say that? Then, like, these other dudes pulled up their own chairs and said that I could sit with them and we'd all watch together. And when I did, more and more people started pulling up chairs, and it became like a little overflow seating area. I started getting to know everyone. I told them I was like new to Seattle, and I didn't really know where to go. Like I want to get back into Melee, but I didn't know what to do. And this one guy invited me to this bi-monthly local here in Seattle called the 5 Iron. And I'm really technologically illiterate, so he also helped me join the Discord. He gave me the dates, showed me how to find the venue, and for like the first time, I felt like I was like really part of this community instead of like an online observer, if that makes sense. And not just like in like the Melee community, it felt like I was part of it for the first time, but also since moving to Seattle, I have felt so isolated from all community. And I've been trying so desperately to find people who I shared something in common with. I don't know, Washington and Seattle have been really cold recently, but here in this little room, it felt warmer than it ever had before. And then the matches started, and oh my god, I have never cheered so much in my life for literally anything. Not any soccer game, not anything. Like, even when I would be watching the Twitch stream in my room, the most noise I would make would just be like a little like, woo magi, and that's it. But there in that room full of like 8 people at most, we made it feel like the main hall. So it was Nikki versus Cody. And I don't cheer, you know, but as the first game goes on and Nikki's taking a stock, the people around me are going like, yeah! And like talking to each other about the stats and how cool it would be if Nikki could pull this off. But we didn't believe it, of course, it couldn't happen. And I've seen these conversations in YouTube comments, but I've never heard them out loud. And I've never had someone to talk with this about before. And I started feeling like my old Melee brain turn on. And the passion reignited. I started joining in on the conversations. It was crazy. I was talking about Melee again, like I did in Twitch chat when I used to watch Toph and Turn Down for Walt videos every day. But then, before I even knew it, Nikki took a game, and the whole room erupted. And I didn't even realize or think I was going to, but I joined in. I wasn't even thinking about how this was my first major anymore, or how scared I was. I was cheering with everyone else like I'd always been there. And I feel like that's what I was always told the Melee community is like. And I was experiencing it, and I was part of it for like the first time. And then this one person jokes that he wants Cody to win the whole tournament for the sake of the after party. And I ask about the after party, and the dudes in the room all start telling me their experiences with top players. And I start realizing that these top players are just literally normal dudes who will talk to anyone and are incredibly kind. I had a bit of an epiphany. I was like, oh my god, it's all just one big group of people who really like an old video game. And it's all chill. Even in a big venue like this, there's literally nothing to worry about. All the storylines we talk about are like cool and moving, but they're all just the stories we tell. And at the end of the day, we're just people who want to hang out. That was the final realization I had that helped me let go of the rest of the stress I was holding on to. And finally, I took off my many jackets, metaphorically and physically, because Seattle is freezing for a California girl, and I let myself be part of the community. From jumping around with everyone when Nikki won, to laughing with everyone when I was the only Hungrybox fan in the room. I was genuinely having the most fun I've had since moving here. And I just really want to thank Don't Park on the Grass for helping make this happen. Then the fun was over when Zane was playing Aklo. Not because of the match itself, of course. I remember how we all locked in this moment Aklo caught his own bomb like it was the coolest thing we'd ever seen. I had plans to meet up with a friend at 9, and just like the old days when Leffen was making that run at LACS, I was drafting a text to her to ask if we could meet up later because I was so wired into the games and the story. And before anything else, this is not a call-out post because everyone I met there was lovely, and you never know what someone is like going through or like the history they have that makes someone act a certain way. But this confusingly mean dude sat behind me during the first Aklo and Zane game. And there was this moment where I cheered when Aklo did this crazy tether recovery, and the dude behind me went, He just did a basic recovery, dude. Chill. And I tried to laugh along and be like, yeah, yeah, so true. Sorry, I play Link and I know that. And like, even for me, that was crazy. And he did not take that. He just went, I'm serious. Chill. And I was just like silent for the rest of the game. Even when Aklo took that game and everyone was like cheering, I was just like, yeah. So after the first game was over, since I was feeling like a little weird, I was going to use the bathroom and try to give that guy some space and like reset my own brain. But before I could get up, he taps me on the shoulder and says, hey, I noticed you don't have a badge. What do you think you're doing here? And I tried to explain that I was told I didn't need a badge to be in this room and how, unlike the other rooms, there's no sign that says I need a badge and these wonderful people here said I could be here. And he just wasn't having it. And he kept cutting me off. And he said that he's not security, but if I don't leave, he like implied that he'd go get security for some reason. And once again, I don't know what this guy was going through at the time. For his own good reasons, he's probably acting this way. That's what I believe. I believe everyone is acting for what they believe is the greater good. But that being said, he still was like I kept being like, I promise it's chill, I promise it's chill. And he kept being like escalating. And I tried to diffuse this weirdly aggressive situation while I was grabbing my jacket by saying, oh, will security remove me by like force? And he just went, maybe. You are breaking the rules. And I was just like, I'm sorry. And I apologized. And he was just getting more and more aggressive. So I decided it'd be best if I just left. I don't have a thing anyway. And I started thanking everyone who I met in the room. And I was trying to see if we could like connect more through Discord. But while I was trying to do that, this person just kept talking over me, saying that like I couldn't be in this room, and no amount of reassurance that I was leaving would get him to stop. And it was really starting to freak me out. And he started standing up, and I was like, what's happening here? So I just like was feeling really freaked out, so I just left. And I'm like, okay. And I leave the venue. And I bring up this one really negative interaction in a sea of good ones. Because while I was leaving the venue, I started to tear up. And I felt like scared. I don't know. I'm bad at getting, like, you can make fun of me. I'm just bad at getting yelled at. I just can't handle it. And also I was sad because at the moment I felt my love for Melee rekindle. This happened, and I felt myself like evicted out of the warmth of the room to being by myself in the cold, trying to figure out how to get home. And I felt like I don't know. It hurt. It hurt. I don't need to elaborate further. My gut thought while I was feeling hurt was, well, I guess Melee's poison for me now. I didn't want to go to that local anymore. I definitely didn't want to like talk to any like top players or go to any after party. And I didn't think this scene was for me, and maybe I wasn't meant to find community in Washington. That's dramatic. I recognize that. But that is how I was feeling. And I bring that up because I know that I'm not the only one who's had a wonderful Melee event, major or local, spoiled by a hurtful interaction. I've read the stories and had people in my own Twitch chat when I'm playing Melee tell me about their experiences. Many, I'd say, are way worse than anything I've experienced there or in the past. But also, there have been many stories I've heard that are similar to when that man threw his controller, or when this other guy, who was probably acting in what he thought was the best for the venue, just being weirdly aggressive and poisoning a good time. Because it really takes a lot to put yourself out there, to travel anywhere, no matter how short the distance, and to being in such an overwhelming environment. And because it takes a lot to be there, it doesn't take much to push you away. The brain is trained to focus on negative interactions over positive ones. When I was walking back, I was pretty adamant about not watching the rest of the tournament. I was like, okay, that was like my one shot I gave Melee again. I'm not going back. But when I was walking back and working through this thought, before I started to spiral about it, I forced myself to think about all the joy that came from deciding to come to this event. Going to something I literally didn't even have a ticket for. Like, think about that. I came literally just on some whim and was welcomed so warmly in a community in a place I've never really interacted with. From my first conversation of the night with Henny to the excitement of walking past my favorite players and thinking, maybe I'll ask one for a picture, which I never did. I was terrified, and also they were so low to the ground I didn't want to scare them. That's mean. And then also being welcomed into that room, being given a place to sit, and incredibly welcoming people to talk to. And then looking back on the pictures and videos I took, I just had to think like, how could I ever stay away from Melee? Of course I'm going to that local, and I will be at that local. But see you soon, 5 Iron. I think it's in 2 weeks. And I'm carrying with me all the joy that I've had in my, what, like 15 years of loving Melee? From that 7-year-old child who had dreams of becoming the best player in the world so that she could get a GameStop gift card, with my Link who only knew how to up B and was scared away by one rude man, and missed out on so much joy I could have experienced, and a lifetime of Melee and community I could have found. Now I'm older, and I have no illusions about becoming a top player. Instead, my new dream is to stay with the Melee community and experience it, both the good and the bad, and see what joy comes from it. I know that only good can come from going outside and touching grass, yet never parking on it. And if you find yourself in a crossroads, like me, I hope this video can convince you to keep on trying, because it's hard to put yourself out there and to be hurt. But I know, despite everything, that the Melee community is here to support me, so I know that they're here to support you too. Find your people and keep this beautiful game alive. In the end, I didn't work up the courage to say hi to top players I wanted to meet, or sit in the big hall and watch historic matches go down. But I learned that Melee is so much more than the highlights we see on twitch.tv, because in one short night, I found so much more than I've ever found from any compilation. And I promise not to let this be the last major I attend. So shout out to the people who made Don't Park on the Grass beautiful, and shout out to Moki for winning. Next time, I'll actually buy my badge on time so that I can cheer for you from the main hall. Thank you for watching. Shout out to Melee. Bye!